What happens when a woman's disappearance remains a mystery for years, only for new technology to unlock the chilling truth? What if the killer was someone she trusted most? In 1987, in the remote wilderness of Left Hand Canyon, Colorado, the lifeless body of 27-year-old Carol Murphy was discovered. Strangled, naked, and stripped of her clothes, her body left behind a chilling scene. For years, the case remained unsolved, a haunting tragedy that seemed destined to be forgotten. But as time passed, advances in DNA technology began to offer new hope. 20 years after Carol's death, the unthinkable happened. The technology pointed to the most unlikely of suspects, her ex-husband, Kelvin Elmer. At first, no one could have predicted the twist this case would take. How could the person closest to her, someone who was trusted to care for their 2 children, be involved in such a brutal and senseless crime? The mystery deepened with every passing year, until the truth finally emerged, revealing a devastating secret no one saw coming. Carol Murphy was just 27 years old when her life was tragically cut short. A woman full of life, with dreams yet to be fulfilled, she was known for her warm personality and her commitment to her work. Carol worked at a local store, where she was well liked by her peers, always ready with a smile and a helping hand. But beyond her job, Carol was a devoted mother to 2 young children. Despite the challenges she faced in her personal life, particularly in her complicated relationship with her ex-husband, Kelvin Elmer, Carol always prioritized her children's well-being. She worked tirelessly to provide them with a stable life, making sure they were cared for and loved. Ambitious and determined, Carol had big dreams for her future. Her marriage had its difficulties, but she remained hopeful, striving to balance her roles as a mother and a woman carving out her place in the world. She was a woman driven by the desire to overcome obstacles, build a better life, and give her children the best future she could. Unfortunately, she would never see that future, and her bright potential was taken away in the blink of an eye. On May 23, 1987, Carol's life would take a tragic and irreversible turn. That day, she was last seen leaving her job, going about her day as usual. Her ex-husband, Kelvin Elmer, reported seeing her just before she disappeared, adding an eerie connection between the last moments of her life and someone who should have cared for her. The final interaction Carol had before vanishing was with a man on a distinctive black and yellow motorcycle. It was a brief encounter, one that would unknowingly mark the last time anyone saw her alive. The sight of the man, helmeted and cloaked in mystery, would become a crucial piece of the puzzle. Carol left work that morning, seemingly in good spirits. She went about her routine, unaware that this would be the last time she would be seen walking freely in the world. Witnesses recall seeing her getting on the motorcycle, the man's helmet obscuring his identity. From that moment, Carol Murphy was gone, and a trail of unanswered questions began to emerge, leading to a decades-long search for answers. The first signs that something was terribly wrong came the following day, when Carol didn't show up for work. Her co-workers, who had come to know her well, immediately grew concerned. They knew something wasn't right, and soon her family and friends began searching, desperately trying to find any sign of where she could be. But the hours passed, and there was no trace of Carol. It wasn't until 24 hours later that a break in the case would come, albeit in the most chilling way. Her body was discovered by 2 tourists who were hiking in Left Hand Canyon. The scene they stumbled upon was horrifying. Carol's naked body was exposed on the rocky ground, stripped of her clothes and left vulnerable to the elements. The most disturbing part? There were no signs of decomposition, a rare and unsettling phenomenon that suggested she had only been there a short time. Authorities were shocked by the condition of the body. It was clear something sinister had happened, but what? How had Carol ended up here, and who had left her in such a brutal and dehumanizing state? The search for answers was just beginning, but the discovery only raised more questions. The medical examination of Carol's body revealed a chilling truth: she had been sexually assaulted and strangled to death. The injuries she sustained were not just physical, they were a brutal act of violence. The autopsy report would confirm the cause of death: strangulation. Her throat had been slayed, a detail that spoke volumes about the violent nature of her death. But the examination didn't stop there. The forensic team also found signs of sexual assault, a detail that made the case even more horrific. It was clear this wasn't just a random act of violence. It was something personal, something calculated. And yet, there was one detail that offered a strange twist: the toxicology report. Despite the brutality of the attack, there were no drugs or alcohol in Carol's system. This ruled out the possibility that substance abuse had played a role in her death, leaving investigators to wonder, who could have done this, and why? As the investigation into Carol's disappearance continued, authorities began to uncover a series of troubling connections. One of the first breakthroughs came when investigators discovered a motorcycle near the scene, one that looked eerily similar to the one owned by Kelvin Elmer, Carol's ex-husband. The description matched exactly what a camper had reported seeing earlier that day: two men on a black and yellow motorcycle, both wearing helmets. The connection to the murder began to take shape. As investigators dug deeper, they learned that Carol had been seen getting on a similar motorcycle the day she disappeared, and witnesses confirmed that the bike was a perfect match to Elmer's. It was impossible to ignore the mounting evidence pointing directly to him. Kelvin Elmer, the man who had once shared a life with Carol, was now the prime suspect. He was the last known person to see her alive, and the black and yellow motorcycle he owned fit the description of the one near the campsite. The more investigators learned, the clearer it became: Elmer's involvement in Carol's death was not just a possibility, it seemed undeniable. When Kelvin Elmer was first questioned by authorities, he claimed that he had last seen Carol that morning. According to him, he had dropped her off to submit a job application. However, as investigators soon discovered, this detail was a lie. There was no record of a job application, and the story he had given didn't hold up under scrutiny. Elmer's inconsistencies began to pile up. His alibi, which he had hoped would clear him, started to unravel piece by piece. His version of events didn't match the evidence, and investigators began to see through the cracks in his story. The growing suspicion surrounding Elmer only intensified as further investigation revealed more damning evidence. His motorcycle, described by multiple witnesses, matched the one seen near the scene where Carol's body was discovered. Authorities began pressing him harder, but Elmer continued to deny any involvement.
You killed Carol? No. You know who did? No.
His story remained inconsistent, and with each passing moment, it became clearer: the man who had once been trusted with Carol's children was now a prime suspect in her brutal murder. As the investigation continued, authorities hit a major roadblock: Kelvin Elmer's DNA was not on file. Yet, in 2004, a breakthrough in forensic science would change everything. Advances in DNA testing gave investigators the tools they needed to revisit the case, and soon, new evidence would begin to surface. The crucial link came when the motorcycle Elmer owned was once again tied to the scene of the crime, a connection that had already raised suspicion. But now, with the help of DNA analysis, the evidence would become undeniable. Investigators soon confirmed that the DNA found on Carol's body matched Elmer's, solidifying his role in her tragic death. Despite this mounting evidence, Elmer continued to deny any involvement. His lies became more transparent as the forensic evidence piled up, each new discovery pushing him further into a corner. What had once seemed like a case with little to go on was now transformed into a clear-cut investigation, with Elmer's deception and denial only making him seem more guilty. The breakthrough that would finally bring justice for Carol Murphy came in the form of a powerful scientific advancement: DNA technology. In 2004, investigators revisited the case, armed with the advancements in DNA testing that had emerged over the years. This new technology allowed them to link Kelvin Elmer's DNA directly to the crime scene, providing the definitive proof that had been lacking for so long. This breakthrough confirmed what investigators had long suspected: Elmer had been involved in Carol's murder. The science, which had evolved significantly since the time of the crime, had now caught up with the mystery, and Elmer's DNA matched that found on Carol's body, closing the gap between suspicion and undeniable proof. The development of DNA profiling in the late 1990s and early 2000s played a crucial role in connecting the dots. What had once been a cold case with limited leads was now a clear case of murder, with DNA as the key to unlocking the truth and finally bringing the long-awaited justice for Carol Murphy. The road to justice for Carol Murphy was far from straightforward. Once the case went to court, it quickly became clear that presenting all the evidence in a way that would hold up legally would be a challenge. Elmer's defense team fought hard to discredit the evidence and cast doubt on the case. Despite the growing pile of forensic evidence, the prosecution faced hurdles in linking Elmer's actions directly to Carol's death in a way that would be irrefutable in court. Elmer's arrest in 2007 marked the beginning of a long and complex legal battle. While he was initially convicted of first-degree murder, the case did not end there. The legal system, known for its checks and balances, ensured that Elmer's conviction would face further scrutiny. In 2013, the case was re-examined, with Elmer's legal team challenging the conviction. They argued that alternative suspects should have been presented to the jury, claiming the investigation had not thoroughly explored other possibilities. This appeal threatened to undo everything that had been built in the case, putting the pursuit of justice for Carol Murphy on hold once again. After years of delays and legal battles, the final trial of Kelvin Elmer was nothing short of intense. His legal team worked tirelessly to create doubt, pushing for inconsistencies and weaknesses in the prosecution's case. Their efforts resulted in a mistrial, setting the stage for yet another round of legal maneuvering. But the quest for justice was far from over. In 2015, after nearly 3 decades of waiting, the case was retried. This time, the prosecution was ready. They had solid, undeniable evidence. Most importantly, the DNA match that tied Elmer to the crime. His inconsistent statements, which had been a source of confusion during the earlier trials, were now pivotal in building a case that could not be ignored. On October 21, 2015, the jury returned their verdict. Elmer was convicted of first-degree murder, and the sentence was final: life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Carol Murphy's family, this was the moment they had been waiting for, the moment when the man who had taken their loved one's life would be held accountable, forever. After nearly 20 years of uncertainty, justice was finally served. For Carol Murphy's family and friends, the conviction of Kelvin Elmer brought a long-awaited sense of peace. The painful years of waiting, hoping for answers, were over. They could now take comfort in the knowledge that her killer would never walk free again. This case became more than just the story of one woman's tragic death, it became a symbol of hope. It demonstrated that, even in the face of overwhelming silence and years of frustration, justice could still prevail. The tireless efforts of investigators and Carol's family ensured that the truth was never forgotten. In the end, it took 20 years, but the truth finally came to light, and Kelvin Elmer's fate was sealed. The case of Carol Murphy reminds us that no matter how long it takes, justice can still find a way. For the people who loved Carol, this was not just a victory for the legal system, it was a victory for the memory of a woman whose life was taken too soon. What are your thoughts on the Carol Murphy case? Do you think Elmer's conviction was fair, or should there have been more investigation into other suspects? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going. If you found this story compelling, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications for more true crime stories that dive deep into the mysteries and emotional trials behind real-life cases. Don't miss out on our next episode.